Yes, good morning, everyone. So today we are assembling for our paper 4 General Studies, paper 4 Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude. All right. So this, along with the essay paper, is the critical element in your civil services preparation. In the rank that you will, this will decide. This precisely decides. I often say this. Probably the rank that you will be getting, the cadre you will be getting. Yesterday, cadre allocation has happened. Yesterday, cadre allocation for the Civil Services 2022 batch has happened. So this probably decides the rank you will be getting, the service you will be getting, the cadre you will be getting. Sometimes who you will be marrying will also be decided by this paper. So take it as seriously as you can. है ना? So from last year, one good old student of ours, Pranjal, she just sent a message, sir, I got Jharkhand, I've gotten my home cadre. So thank you so much. She was our foundation student. And she cleared the exam in her very first attempt. She cleared the prelims mains interview. She got Indian Administrative Service, and that's not all. She also got her home cadre. So I just got a message. तो पता चला cadre relocation हो गया है, right? So this paper, take it a little seriously. If not seriously, take it a little sincerely. All right? ज़्यादा serious भी नहीं होना है. To understand this paper first, we have to understand the syllabus. See, basically, why I'm saying that this paper is more important than the others, while all papers are important, some papers are more important than the others. Why I'm saying this is because if you see the ethics paper, that is paper 4. If you see last year's mark, or generally what I would say the marking pattern in the civil services examination, generally what it will be. For GS paper 1, averagely the students will be getting somewhere between 90 to 105, 110. GS paper 2, again, the marking range will be between, let's say, 95. I'm talking about the good students, to 115. All right, अब 60 वाले भी हैं उसमें. So that's not. GS paper 3, averagely the marks are between 95 to 105. I'm not sure if anybody has crossed the double-digit mark this year. I saw rank 1 scorecard. I think she also did not cross the double-digit mark in GSP. So the marking pattern is very on the lesser side. So variation. So the good news is some students become very happy. Sir, rank 1 के भी 97 आए हैं, rank 5 के भी 98 आए हैं, तो मेरे भी कम आए हैं. नहीं पढ़ने का फायदा हो गया. Did not study, so they are happy. But in paper 4, the marks variation will be very huge. You will meet candidates on the lower spectrum, on the lower side, people end up getting 70, 71, but that's not the broad range. Will range here from 88 to approximately 145, 148. This is the range in which marks are awarded. All right, so the minute the range increases for the award of marks, that means that that paper becomes the decider of your destiny, decider of your fate. All right, so therefore, उस paper में marks मिलने हैं. That is the paper where you got to score. And that you can score if you put some effort, if you make some notes, if you have some content that is ready. All right, if you have something that is pre-planned. This is, the good news is that this is not as difficult as you think. Most people do not prepare for paper 4 for a very extended period of time. All you need to do is you need to study it once, continue revising what you have studied, and then add on things from day-to-day life. That is all that you need to do. Questions will often be on the open-ended side. If they will not be exactly as per the keyword, then the questions will be on the open-ended side. That will give you a lot of bandwidth or playground. All right? So that's the good news. If with little effort you can easily cross the 120 barrier, you can cross the 120 barrier, 120 marks barrier with a decent amount of, and I would say that this paper would not take so much of your time as it will take dedicated attention, which means that you need to focus on this paper right now in the classes, and then maybe before the mains examination, maybe for a week or 10 days at max. Not more than 10, 15 days in any case. Whereas other papers, such as General Studies paper 1, will take a lot of more time for you. So in less number of days, in about 10 to 15 days at max, If you give it dedicatedly, you should be able to cross the 120 barrier, all right? And the marking, as you say, the bandwidth is so high that this is one paper which you need to focus along with the essay paper, all right? If you see this, the ethics paper, it was brought in a very rudimentary format at the prelims level. Before they brought it in the mains level, replacing 2 general studies paper, है ना, at the first year of the last decade, these changes were brought in around 2011, where 2 general studies paper were replaced with 4 general studies paper. But before that, है ना, so before that, what had happened is, in the prelims examination, the CSAT was made compulsory, and it was not qualifying. CSAT is compulsory right now also, but CSAT was made not qualifying, which means that your rank would be decided by, as in, there was a cutoff would be taken from both GS as well as CSAT, all right? In that, they introduced some questions, which questions were taken from ethics in the prelims examination. You were given 4 choices, and as is the case in ethics, 2 choices would be correct instead of 1 choice. Otherwise, what do you have in MCQs? You have 1 correct choice, right? So they introduced this paper and 2 choices would be correct. At least more than 1 choice would be correct. So everybody had a problem, ki, sir, if more than 1 choice is correct, how is it in MCQ? So they said, no, we will not. First is that because there can be more than 1 right answer, because there can be more than 1 right answer, so what we will do is we will not have negative marks for those questions in the prelims. All right, we will not have negative marks. And secondly, more than 1 right answer may be awarded. So the commission came out with the keys. All right, then there was a protest with respect to the nature of CSAT paper itself, which some people felt that it was skewed against rural candidates. That was the debate back then. So the commission made it qualifying in nature. And then in the mains examination, changes were brought, replacing 2 general studies paper with 4 general studies paper, this one being paper 4. All right, so that is the brief history. Now the objective, why CSAT, why the ethics paper was introduced? Obviously, there are several factors. One factor that it is assumed, and it is rightly assumed, is that there it will inculcate some sort of ethical conduct in the aspiring candidates when they become officers. Now, some of you may argue that despite studying ethics, it does not make a person ethical. All right, despite studying ethics, it does not make a person ethical. Sir, I've been reading moral science since class 7th. उसमें भी cheating करके answer लिखता था last bench में, है ना? So there could be, you could be, aberrant behavior could be there. All right. But do you really think that, then what is the point of introducing this paper? Let us say you know ethics, and is it possible for a person to be still unethical? Yes or no? So whenever some corruption case will come against a person selected via this examination, obviously the newspaper editorials will write that, this is despite the commission introducing the ethics paper in the examination, these things are happening. All right, so it is how many of you think that despite knowing ethics, people may be unethical? Good number of people, great. Now tell me then, is there any benefit of studying this paper? What is the benefit? Marks nahi. That's not the point. What other benefits are there? Huh? It may, yes, yes. Huh? It will help us in decision making, very good. Anything else? It works as a tool of moral suasion, very important. You understand what is moral suasion? What is moral suasion? A kind of conscience would be developed within a person that would help him. So moral suasion is something like something like the very primitive or the very primary tool of moral suasion would be the picture of father of the nation on the Indian currency. That is moral suasion, right? That when you took a look at the moral at your currency or at your 500 note or 100 note, you see the father of the nation. Moral suasion is also when outside in government offices you have the pictures of the father of the nation or the leaders of the freedom struggle. All right. That means that while moral suasion is also when Uh, you have things written against corruption on the ground, on the walls of government offices. That is moral suasion, which means that while there is nothing that can completely stop it, it works to remind you what are the values. That's very correct. So broadly, the conclusion of this discussion is that we should study ethics even if it may not help us in becoming ethical. All right. That's exactly, so that's a part of your answer also. Why should we study ethics? That becomes a part of your answer also. That while ethics often may not help us becoming ethical, it helps us at least knowing the ethical principles. है ना? Is it possible to speak English without knowing English grammar? How many of you think it's not possible to speak English without English grammar? That's not the case. Go to Paharganj. You will see auto drivers who cater to tourists. Very aspirational. Ours is a very aspirational country. Ours is a very aspirational country. You will often meet auto drivers, tour guides. All right? They will be often be able to speak very fluent English. And despite not having the same education as you. And some of you, after despite all the English training and English education, सर टेंस में गलती हो जाती है, द बोलने की प्रॉब्लम है. इंडिया इज अ ग्रेट नेशन, द इंडिया इज अ ग्रेट नेशन, देन समबडी सेज द नहीं लगेगा उसके पहले, है ना? सो दैट मे हैपन, करेक्ट. All right. So if you see the syllabus of the commission, syllabus designed by the commission, one thing is there that the syllabus, if you see, when this paper was designed, it seems as if the paper was designed in a little bit of hurry, because you see that to evaluate the paper, who to hire, big challenge before the commission. Why? You have political science professors who can check your political science copies. You have philosophy professors who can check your philosophy copies. You have public administration professors who can check your public administration copies. But Department of Ethics, not an academic discipline. Department of Ethics is generally seen by the people who are in vigilance department. And a Department of Ethics is usually a euphemism for the vigilance department. These people are going to see who's undertaking unethical conduct in the premises, and therefore there will be Department of Ethics, which is a less coercive term for a vigilance department sometimes. है ना? So there is no professor for ethics. So the syllabus, if you see, of ethics is derived from 3 primary optional subjects, if you see. One is what is called moral philosophy. Moral philosophy. The second part of this syllabus is taken from public administration. And a significant part is also taken from psychology. All right, these are the 3 primary subjects from which your syllabus is taken. All right, so the syllabus is also a little on the haphazard side, where you have certain repetitions, as in the same topics are repeated. Okay? So if you see here in moral philosophy, if you see, there is topic number 1 is there. Ethics and human interface. You could say that this is taken from, है ना? Ethics and human interface is there. If you see topic 2 of your syllabus, so topic 2 is attitude. Topic 2 is attitude. All right? है ना? One is ethics and human interface. Topic 2 is attitude. Attitude is again a part of psychology. What is topic 3? Topic 3 is aptitude and foundational value of civil services. Aptitude and foundational values of civil services. You could say that parts of this will be a part of public administration. Not the values part, but the administrative decisions that you will make. All right, will be part of public administration. Again, topic 4. Topic 4 is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence again is a part of your psychology. All right. Topic 5 is contribution of moral thinkers that we generally put in miscellaneous. Topic 5. Five is moral thinkers, contribution of moral thinkers. You could broadly put it as moral philosophy. You could put it also here also, or in a miscellaneous. Topic 6 is again probity in governance and concept of public service. Probity in governance, topic 6. Probity in governance. Probity in governance, concept of public service, and philosophical basis of governance. All right. This also interestingly becomes a part of your public administration. Public administration. No, topic, sorry. This is not topic 6, topic 7. This is topic 7. This is topic 7. Topic 6 is public service values. Right, this is 7. 7. Topic 6 is public service values. Public service values will overlap with which? Foundational values of civil services. Public service values will be the same, similar as foundational values of civil services, though we'll see certain differences. So that is topic 6 and topic 7. And then we have topic 8, which is case studies. So how many topics are there in the ethics syllabus? 8 topics, remember them. What is the first topic? Ethics in human interface. Topic 2? Aptitude. Attitude. Topic 3? Topic 4? Very good. Topic 5? Moral thinkers. Topic 6? Public service values. Topic 7? All right. Probity in governance. Topic 8 is case studies. 8 topics. Remember the syllabus very well. That is the starting steps. Remember that the kind of questions that are framed, depending on the year, most of the times, at least you can expect, in a good year, you can expect 100% questions from the keywords given in the syllabus. In a good year, you can expect 100% of the questions from the keywords of the syllabus, exact words that are there in the syllabus. So that is why this paper becomes a great differentiator between those who are prepared versus those who have not prepared. In a bad year, you would be getting 60% of the questions from the keywords in the syllabus, but the remaining 40% can be addressed by what is given in the syllabus. All right? Another thing that you need to know about this paper is that it is a thinking paper. It is a thinking paper, which means that you will have to think of your answer. You will have to think of your answer. All right, it may not be a ready-made thing. The question may be something like, the question may be sometimes asked from your own experience in life. So that means that for the very first time, your pen may stop. All right, so we'll see the different kinds of questions that are asked. And broadly, I'm expecting that all of you here in this class have written at least a few answers, not of ethics paper, but at least any gender studies paper. So you should be able to follow what I'm going to share with you next. All right? The types of questions that you are going to encounter in this paper, and a general study as to how to handle them. All right? The types of questions that you will encounter in this paper and how to handle them. So listen to it very attentively, even if you are not able to fully understand it because you are too fresh into the preparation. Jitna samajh mein aaye, utna karna, because later when you will encounter the questions, you may be able to connect the dots. All right? If you are not exposed to some of the questions, then you will be. So you'll have to understand what is the types of questions that are asked in this. All right? Types of questions. See, the types of questions that are asked in the civil services ethics paper is a little standardized. It's a little stereotype. Similar kinds of questions are asked so that we can group them into types. The first type is quotation-based questions. All right? Quotation-based questions. All right, a quotation-based question will be there that bring out what it means to you, है ना, in the current context. ठीक है? You can take some standard, something like it will be, है ना, be the change. Okay, so something like this, that what does this mean to you in the current context? Now, let us have a small social experiment in this class. Be very honest and don't worry about others judging you. All right. And when you're raising your hands for something, you should be able to answer it, so therefore be very clear. How many of you, let me make it easy, how many of you don't know who has said this? Or how many of you don't know who has said this? Okay, look around, keep raising your hands, look around, all of you, that what is the number of people who do not know. Okay, keep your hands down. Let me reverse the question. How many of you know who has said this? Raise your hands. Now look around. There are some people, है ना? So you broadly understand what I'm actually seeing is a 33% class saying that I know, 33% saying I don't know, 33% are not sure whether they know or not. है ना? They are like independent MLAs, right? They ask which party, then they will say हम जनता के साथ हैं, हम जनता के साथ हैं, until one person comes with a good enough offer saying that I am the next CM, हम CM के साथ हैं, है ना? So they are there. So broadly 33. What the challenge here is, what I'm trying to say here is that this is the most common quotation in civil services. I mean, there cannot be something. What I would say is that this is the most cliched quotation in civil service preparation. But given the nature of humanities as a subject, you see that when a question like this is asked, that bring out, है ना, what does the above statement mean to you in the current context? You see that only 1/3 of the people, which is a very enlightened crowd, mind you, which is dedicatedly preparing for civil services, only 1/3 of the people are aware who has said this. All right, who has said this above quotation? Mahatma Gandhi. Why I asked you to raise your hands in both the occasions is the people who know who has said this, they think that everybody knows who has said this. Most of the times, they think that ये तो आसान है. Everybody knows who has said it. ये किसको नहीं पता है, right? Now the problem happens. What happens is because they think that it is too obvious, everybody knows. So when this question comes, they will often skip or forget to write that the above lines are said by Mahatma Gandhi. So therefore, when I see the answer, they are the same as somebody who does not know who has said it. Big difference. And this does not strike them at first. All right, so you will have questions like this. We will decode a way to address them. You should be enlightened in certain ways how to address these questions or decode such statement-based questions. But please be very clear with few facts. That is, in humanities, you have to focus on analysis, even if it means simplifying something, even if you think it is obvious. Most of you who knew who had said this felt that this was too obvious an answer. That Mahatma, ye kisko nahi pata hai, but you saw the class. 2/3 of the class, 1/3 very clearly does not know, 1/3 is not sure whether they know or not. Right, so the ones who are not sure, they also don't write. And when you don't write, then there is no benefit of having known that fact. Isko samjho. Then we will go ahead from here. All right, so you will have something like quote-based questions. Or you will have something like another question like, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now this is also common. This is also decently common that on corruption or power you will definitely write this quote. But this quote, some of you know the answer. Who said it? Lord Acton said it. All right. So anyway, if you know, it is best to write, who has said it. This is very important. So if you get a quote-based question, what I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a framework how to address such questions. Any question, whether it is, beauty is truth, truth is beauty, you can broadly apply something like this to even a difficult question. All right, isko samajh lo ek baar. So when you get, this is the first type of question, quote-based questions. So one few presumptions that you must know. That first presumption is that you can address this question even if you do not know who has said it, not needed. In some years, commission will give who has said it. In some years, they do not give who has said it. In the early years, they did not give who has said it, but most of the years, they will give who has said it. But even if you, whether you know or don't know, that is not important, because A, most people who know also don't write it for any reason. Sometimes they think it is too obvious, or sometimes they think that they are not very sure. They know it, but they are not sure. All right, so if you get a code-based question, how to analyze it? The first thing that you need to do in code-based question is, you identify who has said it, if you can. All right, identify who has said it as to the best of your abilities. It's not necessary that, all right, in what context was it said? All right, now these things, these two are the most difficult part of the quotation-based question. You do not know who has said it, and you do not know the context in which has said. So please remember that in the same breath, I'm also saying that if this is helping you add to your content, well and good, but let this not be an inhibitor in answering the question. We will try to have a framework such that even if we don't know question number 1 and 2, we should be able to answer the question. That is what is extremely crucial here. Is this clear? So you do not have to know. It is good to know, but not necessary to know. It's a good to know, it's a bonus if you know you can address these two questions, but it's not essential. All right? Now, the third question that is there is, explain the meaning. Explain the meaning of the quote. This is very important. You must explain what the quote means in simple English. Even if it means, it looks as too obvious, still you have to, even if you think that, sir, iska to meaning bahut aasan hai. It is simply saying that power has a corrupting influence on the people who wield it. What is there to explain? But the point is that when you don't write it, I don't know whether you know or not. All right, so that is extremely important that you explain it. Explain in simple terms. The fourth thing that is extremely crucial is identify a keyword. Identify a keyword and analyze it. Analyze a keyword. All right, what do I mean by analyzing a keyword? There are certain tools of analyzing any keyword in, or a concept in social sciences, in humanities. And how do you analyze it? You try to, what I'd say is, identify its analysis would entail, identifies its typology. Identify its typology. I'll explain to you what this means. Identify its typology. All right? That what are the various types in which it can exist. All right? The fifth tool that you can use here is, in the analysis part, identify the keyword analysis, you compare and contrast it. Compare and contrast it with an contrary idea or ideology. ऐसे का भी हमारा ये framework रहेगा to some extent. Compare and contrast it with a contrary idea or ideology or a personality. All right, so something like this. This is a code-based question, a very simple question. And it may or may not have to do with the ethics paper also. Be very clear that if there is a simple quotation like be the change be the change that you want to see in the world, then you do not have to in particularly. So in such a case, how do you address this question? All right. How do you address this question? Now, how do you address this question? The first, of course, we know that Gandhi has said it. We may or may not, let us imagine that we do not know the context in which it was said. But you know that Gandhi has said it. Can you tell me what is the keyword in this question? Yes, very good. Change. So this is the keyword, all right? When I say that you apply this framework, it is fairly good idea to answer this question by saying that the above lines have been said by whom? Mahatma Gandhi. That is the first line. If you know it, very well and good. If you don't know, you can skip this part. Then the second line could be that in what context he has said it. All right. You may not be fully aware of the context in which it was said, but you can imagine context in which it would be relevant, either to the person or in general. I repeat, you may not be fully aware of the context in which the particular person said, or the reason why the particular person said it, but you can imagine, or you can create, or you can correlate context in which this quote is applicable. This quote was applicable and this quote is applicable. If Lord Acton said power corrupts, you may not know what was the prevailing situation in England when this was said, but you can very well correlate it to a general situation even today. That does power corrupt or not? You could broadly say yes, and therefore, even if you don't know the context of the speaker, you should be able to tell a general context in which this quote is applicable. All right. So here, you could as well say that these lines were said by Mahatma Gandhi. Now, I'm just telling you one of the ways to answer this. That's not the only way. There could be other ways. So what is the reason that Mahatma Gandhi may have said in the world in this? Or what is the meaning of this? Let's just identify the meaning. Forget the context, which we don't know. All right, so this quotation, what does it simply mean? It simply means to say that man or we want to see several changes or modifications, or we want to see several changes in the world. In what sort of world? In the external world, in the world outside us. But what does Mahatma Gandhi recommend here? He recommends that if we want to see such certain changes in the external world, what is the first step according to him? The first step is to bring those changes within us. Can we say that this is in simple English, this is the meaning? That even if we want to see certain changes in the outside world, the first step for any man should be not to create that outside world, but to create those changes inside himself. Can we say that? Yes. All right. Now, we have identified the core meaning of this sentence. Meaning हमने identify कर लिया है कि the first step Mahatma Gandhi has told us what is the first step to take. Right? That is bring changes within oneself. All right? Now, can you analyze what sort of change? You said that such change is the keyword here. So play on the word change. What sort of changes can be there? All right. So yes, you see the change. You can identify it. You can break it into different types. You can break it into different types. Change can be, for example, external. Opposite of external क्या होगा? Internal. Change can be permanent, or it can be permanent or everlasting, or it can be temporary. You try to identify applicable typologies. What are the different types of change that can happen? Change can be physical or material. Change can be physical or material. In contrast, change can also be, it can be spiritual. It can be spiritual, right? So Gandhi, when he talks about change, what sort of change is he talking about? You do put all these keywords. That change can be external or internal, it can be permanent, है ना? Or it can be temporary, it can be material, physical world, applicable to the physical world outside us, or it can be spiritual within us. And in the above lines, Gandhi recommends what sort of change? He's not talking about external change. What he's talking about? He's talking about internal change. He's not talking about a temporary change. He's talking about a permanent, everlasting change. Gandhi is not concerned about the physical, material change. His concerns are more with the inner spiritual change. Now, if you know a few things, if I were you, I would also know a few things about Gandhi. That is, he used the two tools. What are the two tools or two broad pillars of his philosophy? Truth and non-violence, Satya or Ahimsa. You can say that the two tools of truth and non-violence used by Gandhi were built on this philosophy. When Gandhi talked about his tools of truth and non-violence, what sort of change with truth and non-violence was he willing to bring? He was willing to bring that inner change. If you also know a little more about Gandhi, you know that he was the chief political officer for our freedom struggle. And he helped us, he won us the freedom. There are certain revisions in it, but he won an entire he did not win freedom only for India. He won freedom for the whole subcontinent. Hamare left or right, west or east neighbors, the whole Indian subcontinent got freedom, not just India. Right? Pakistan, Bangladesh also, and a second freedom came later for Bangladesh. All right. So you can always talk about what sort of change Gandhi has said. Then can you compare and contrast him to any person, any of his contemporaries? Yes, a good comparison often is a Hitler. You could say that Hitler, a contemporary, one of Gandhi's contemporaries of early 20th century. Right, he also wanted to change the world. What was Hitler's dream? Some of you may have read about world history, Lebensraum or greater living space for the Germans, but even if you do not know, you say that he also wanted a German rule. His imagined world, he wanted change in the world that would be dominated by Germany, by his, and therefore what was his policy? Not truth and non-violence, but he pursued a policy of violence and war, committing one of the greatest genocides in human history. And therefore centuries later or decades later, while Hitler is vilified, Hitler was not satisfied. Hitler did not feel that there was a need for inner change. He felt that what was needed was a change in the external world. And therefore he pursued a policy of violence, war and conquest. And decades later he is still vilified as one of those few people who have committed the biggest crimes against humanity. And Gandhi is celebrated as an apostle of peace, truth, non-violence. Whose path we have to follow in the end? In today's world, this quotation becomes all the more important and more for us. Because today, the world, what it needs is, the world has developed. The external world has developed. But what is truly lacking is spiritual development in the world. And that is what is needed. What it means to you, as a student, as somebody who's preparing for civil services, this also tells us that the world will not be recreated by your imagination or by your effort. First, you have to recreate the world in your mind before it reflect in the world. So what you have to look for, when you want change, what do you have to look for? You have to look within yourself. You have to bring change within yourself. Along these lines, we can pursue and frame a very good answer. You will not be able to get opportunity to write more than this in 150 words. Itna likh loge kafi hai. Is this clear? Do we have some framework or some understanding how to approach this? When we deal with another quotation like power corrupts and absolute power, we will give that assignment karna usko. Okay, so this is one type. All right, So he is asking a good question, sir, that sir, we have to incorporate words of the syllabus in the answer. What I would say is that different question, such as power corrupts absolute, power corrupts absolutely. If there is a scope, you must do that. But an artificial insertion is not very much recommended. Because there are a lot of questions, if you see the paper, which do not require, as I said, do not require elements of moral philosophy, but what they needed As I said, taken from public administration, they simply require administrative ethics, which means that there will not be anything right or wrong. There will be simple administrative decision-making questions. उसमें morality ज़बरदस्ती नहीं डालनी है. Simple administrative decision-making questions will be there, which may not be questions of morality in the first place. Which may not be even questions of morality in the first place. So that also should not be done. All right. Then the second type of question that you may get is a keyword-based direct question. Very common. What do you understand by foundational values of civil services? Keyword-based direct questions. Everybody has the handout. In H2, you will have this. And so how keyword-based direct questions, that what are the main components of emotional intelligence? What does foundational value of civil services mean to you? What is attitude? What is aptitude? These questions are low-hanging fruits, which means that how to handle these questions will require you to have make crisp notes on these topics. You will need to address them with a what, why, how approach. All right, this approach, that what it is, what is foundational values of civil services, why it is important for civil services, and how it can be inculcated. Very simple. What, why, how approach. All right, a what, why, how approach is sufficient for it. Then you will have another type of question, that is, what I would say is an application-based question or opinion-based question. Application or opinion-based question. All right. है ना, एक चीज लिख लो in this opinion-based question. Write down one thing. Opinion is the lowest form of human knowledge. Write in your copy. Opinion is the lowest form of human knowledge. ठीक है? This is the answer to the question which some students will be, sir, can we write our own personal opinion in questions? है ना? So remember that opinion is the lowest form of human knowledge. So here when there is an opinion, like for example, it is said that politics and ethics do not go together. What is your opinion in this regard? Then you will have certain opinion, ki sir, we are every day seeing politicians are very corrupt, or people who are honest also when they are going into politics, they are becoming corrupt. So sir, my personal opinion is that it is not possible. Tum likh kar aa gaye, number aa gaye kam. So why I am saying that it is not incorrect. Your opinion may not be fully incorrect, but a theoretical understanding why it is difficult to be ethical in politics is something that you have to know and be exposed to. All right, you have to be exposed to the idea that why people who go to politics become unethical, if at all. And an understanding of that concept is important, and what can be done to ensure that politics remains ethical. See, in a democracy, modern times, we broadly understand and broadly agree on one thing, that the best way to organize or distribute power in human society, at least in the 21st century, not in the 18th or 17th century, but at least in the 21st century, broadly there is a consensus broadly, I would say not everywhere, there is a consensus that the best way to distribute power in any society is democracy. That where we give power exactly, equal power to every single person by way of votes. So everybody, all of you have one vote, and that is an equal amount of political power that you may have. When one of you can emerge as a leader and accumulate the votes of others, then his power increases, dependent only on the votes that he can get. So therefore, and everybody has an equal opportunity to do that. So broadly, we understand that democracy is if not the best way, then a good enough way to organize society and organize distribution of power in the society. If we follow it, then there will be less conflict for power in the society. On the other hand, if I nominate one of you as the kings of this class, others must butcher you, may butcher you, है ना? They'll start saying कि सर इसके तो 10th में मुझसे कम नंबर है, इसको कैसे बना दिया आपने, राइट? सब में से कि सर इसका तो ग्रेजुएशन में 4-year degree course is done in 5 years. Some people may say sir he is not even strong enough, है ना? So therefore there will be a fight if one of you is made the most powerful member of this class. So broadly what would you say if you have to elect a leader from this class? You'd say कि अच्छा आप लोग voting कर लो. The one who can canvass and one who has the gift of gab. You know what is gift of gab? A natural flair for speaking. That person will become the leader of this class. All right, that person will become the leader. You will broadly agree कि चलो this is decent enough. Otherwise, swords will be drawn. And if UP people are there, then anything can come out. All right, कि गाजियाबाद से supply ला रहे हैं, फिर अलग समस्या हो जाएगी. All right, so that we broadly understand that the most non-violent way we can organize society is a democratic society. Now, why I'm saying this is कि in an opinion-based question, that what is, Hannah, do you agree with this or what is your opinion? For example, there is a question that young people with ethical conduct, there is a view that Official Secrets Act is an obstacle to the implementation of Right to Information Act. Do you agree with this view? Official Secrets Act is Official Secrets Act is a hindrance in the implementation of Right to Information Act. Do you agree with this view? Now, two things that you need to know for addressing this question is, there is an Official Secrets Act passed in the pre-independence era by the British government, which says that a public authority can deny information or must not disclose any official information, otherwise he is liable to be penalized under the Official Secrets Act for letting out an official secret. That is what is the Official Secrets Act. Second is the Right to Information Act that is passed in 2005, much later. It is a UPA initiative. So this act simply says that any information that is, unless there is a proven reason to keep it confidential, any government information must be made available to the public unless strong reasons, unless certain circumstances are there. है ना? So broadly, any government information decision must be given out openly to the people, when first is suo motu by displaying it on the website, and otherwise on being asked. That is what is right to information. Now there is a catch here in this. The catch here is that right to information says, give away all the data. Official Secrets Act forbids it. And when they both coexist, then there is a conflict. So when your opinion comes, if you're not aware of the whole debate that what is the catch here, then you will say that, sir, I have given a very good opinion that yes, it must be repealed, or yes, or it may not be repealed and RTI should be there. All information must be in public domain. Transparency is the antidote to corruption and graft. All right, that is not, your personal opinion is not expected. What is expected is a well-balanced view where you also, it is not expected that do you agree with this view? तो तुमने क्या किया? Yes answer लिख कर आ गए और कॉपी खाली छोड़ दी. ठीक है कि sir, I told you the answer. I said, what is the correct answer? Yes, yes is the answer. I wrote it. है ना? So you are not there to give a judgment there. In humanities, we, remember, लिख लो इसको, arrive at a conclusion, don't begin with conclusion. Arrive at a conclusion, do not begin with conclusion. Arrive at a conclusion, do not begin with, which means that you should know that what is the reason that this act is there, what is the reason that this is there, and what is your final conclusion. Do not begin with, yes, in my opinion, this is the correct thing to do, and just justify it. That is not what is expected in an answer. All right, that is not what. Youth are not willing to join politics, or politics is incompatible with ethics. Politics is incompatible with ethics. What is your opinion? You say, yes, it is not possible. You have to, it is not possible, you have written and justified it, not required, you will not get marks for it. You have to first analyze that why somebody is saying that politics and ethics are incompatible, why they do not go together, right? Why contesting elections may require one to undertake certain unethical activities, all right? So broadly, you have to analyze this, and then you have to come up with your final answer, saying that it may be difficult or it may be easy for one to give in to the temptation in politics to achieve one's objectives by unethical means. All right, it may be easy for a person to give in to the temptation of using unfair means to achieve the objective, but it is definitely possible to remain ethical in politics and then justify what you're saying. Not agreeing, some students? Possible or not to be ethical in politics? You know? Take the example of Mahatma Gandhi itself, the most successful political figure of the 20th century, right? Lal Bahadur Shastri, our own Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, right? You could say that they may not benefit in electoral politics, may not sometimes suit them. Rajya Sabha ke through, you can. It was only for the integrity of the Prime Minister that he was able to occupy the highest or the second highest office in this country. Isn't it? The integrity of his ideas, the integrity of his work ethics that he was able to rise to such an occasion. All right, so this is, and again, opinion-based or application-based question. So here, personal opinion is not required. A very well-educated or analyzed opinion is required, बच्चा. अपना दिमाग लगाना, दोनों side discuss करना है. In this question, you have to discuss both the sides that why it is and why it is not, and therefore I have a conclusion. Don't begin by writing your personal opinion, yes, and this is the reason why I think so. And then come out like a boss, कि लिख तो दिया examiner को, I have told my opinion. He is not seeking your consultancy. He is expecting an answer. All right. Then there is another and the most treacherous part. सबसे है ना. The thing is, this is the examples question, especially examples from your life. Now, this is the question where most people in an examination hall, यहाँ पर आकर पेन रुक जाती है. Pen stops working. The pen will stop working here in this part. Because it is the fourth paper. Right, so you have written GS paper 1. Thoda sa haath us samay, hand does not work a little. Paper 2, and then you sometimes lose out on some questions. Then by the time paper 2 comes, second half, haath saaf ho jata hai. Paper 3, you will be gaining momentum. Paper 4, your hand is very much free. Looks like God has increased the grease in your wrist. That will be the experience of the mains examination. लगेगा कि भगवान ने इसको फ्री कर दिया, पहले दिन क्यों नहीं किया ये. ठीक है. So for that reason we conduct 4 GS papers are conducted. All right. 4 general studies and essay paper are conducted 15 days before the exam just for this purpose in forum. So that before you write the mains exam, at least one benefit you should have is, so after you writing the paper, your hand will become free and your writing will become high speed writing. But by the time you will achieve this, क्या होगा? Paper खत्म हो जाएगा. तो फिर test papers लिखोगे speed में. है ना. You will meet students who are writing test after their mains कि अच्छा पेपर लेट से नहीं सर 15 मिनट पहले खत्म हो रहा है. एग्जाम में आधा घंटा लेट हो रहा था, लेकिन उसके बाद है ना 15 मिनट्स पहले पेपर इज फिनिशिंग. बिग प्रॉब्लम है ना. गुड प्रॉब्लम्स टू हैव. All right, so here is person, your pen may stop working. Here is, so here, and these questions, what I often say is these are time killers. They will take a lot of your time, and therefore, है ना, in addressing such questions, you will have to, at least this will require certain practice and observation. You may, some of you who do not have a working life, generally you will have a lot of experiences in working life. So you may have to create examples from your life. है ना? Earlier, because generally there is sometimes there is a belief that the person who's evaluating the paper may be a little sympathetic to women candidates. So students sometimes write in a format such that as if they are a woman candidate. That also in 2008-9 candidates. I met a person, he got selected IAS, both he and his wife got selected in 6th attempt. Way back 2008-9 batch. Ab senior, now, है ना? So now they will be secretary rank पर होंगे अभी. So they said, he said it was my final attempt. Philosophy option था उनका, he had philosophy. So I said I made lot of diagrams. Punjab Cadre he went. Okay, so I made lot of diagrams in every question because it was what? The call given, it was like for me, it was the same call which Mahatma Gandhi gave in 1942. What call he gave? Do or die, karo ya maro. And the last attempt was, है ना? So therefore, he said, so when you will have to think of examples A good newspaper reading will help you here, because even if you cannot think of examples, you can also write others examples. है ना, बहुत others. See, a wise candidate, तेज बच्चे अलग होते हैं. So even if you gossip with them, they will pick up your example and write in your answer. They'll pick up your example and write in your answer. और तुम बातें करते रहेगा, you did all the gossip, it was your story and exam you also wrote, but you forgot to write that example. So he knows how to pick up examples from a day-to-day gossip also. He is picking up, because he could not think of an example where he had showed highest integrity. है ना? All right. And do not, in this, I do not know how this will proceed, but one example please don't give, which is in every copy, that whenever there is a question on that, how did you display integrity? You were going somewhere and you found someone's wallet and you returned it to him. Don't do that. Out of 100 people, 90 people return wallets of people. All right, so because what happens is then it looks like so here you will have to be a little imaginative. You will also have to think a bit. So this is how we'll proceed with these. All these examples cannot be given to you, because if everybody writes the same examples, then again there is a problem, that how do people have the same example? There it is a short way to lose marks. So don't ask, sir, give us all the examples, we will write it. Then people writing same example, definitely big problem. You can write the same answers, because those answers often have been taken from reports and standard books. Like what I'll be teaching you, a lot of it will be taken from several government reports, from police commission reports of state governments and central government, from second administrative reforms commission, from at least 10 to 12 books. Difficulty of being good, for example, all these things will be there. Now the point is, you can have answers from here, and that is perfectly acceptable. All right, and some notes that some students of ours have shared with us, ki sir, ye mera juice hai isko. This is the best notes of mine. I have not released it anywhere. So you make sure that you give it to good students. So I'll try to incorporate those points. That is acceptable, but the example from your personal life, if it becomes the same, then we are in trouble, all of us. And if you are in trouble, then I'm in trouble next year. So you have to score well. Thankfully, the last time we took classes, Himanshu was there in this class. So he secured a very good rank, 27 rank. That was the first batch, I think, that I had taken for paper 4. At least, I think 10 or 12 students were there whom I remember from that class. It was a smaller class than this, but 10 or 12 students, I remember, they were able to get a rank in top 100. And that year, marks also were awarded liberally in ethics paper. So 127 number, 128 number, बहुत बच्चों के आए थे. So the objective will be the same here. All right. So now we'll begin with certain keywords and certain ideas. All right. Certain keywords. How should conclusions be written? ठीक है, आगे discuss करेंगे. We will be doing more questions and answers. We'll be seeing them. Okay. So certain key ideas, or we'll be discussing in today's class. Ethics or dharma. So are we going to study what is dharma shastra? How does dharma relate to ethics? All right. So these keywords, we will know what it means. So if you see dharma, what does dharma mean? Does it mean your, when I ask what is your dharma or dharma? All right. So what? Yes, he said very nicely to study, correct identification of one's dharma. Somebody would have said, "Ki sir, I'm a Hindu." है ना? So therefore, if you see the very word dharma, it has different meanings applied or है ना? But in effect, what dharma means, dharma in the Indian context, it is often misunderstood as it is dharma does not mean, yes, does not mean religion. In the Indian context, it means duty. Dharma means what is one's duty, what is your dharma. है ना? What is your duty? In fact, not just duty, it may mean what is your moral duty. What is your moral duty? All right? There can be two kinds of dharma. One is the sadharan dharma, and there is swadharma. There is something known as sadharan dharma, and then there is something known as swadharma. That is what is your duty. What is sadharan dharma? That is, sadharan dharma is the ethics that is applicable to all. Ethics or morality that is applicable to all. Ethics or morality that is applicable to all the people. And swadharma is the ethics morality applicable, or you could say which that is applicable because of your position, because of who you are. Tum kaun ho? It is because of who you are. Tum kaun ho? Can you think of an example? Anybody? Honesty is the best policy, है ना? साधारण धर्म is honesty is the best policy, है ना? You are working in a bank, honesty is the best policy. किसी ने पूछा ये HNI का अकाउंट है, उसमें बैलेंस कितना है ना? तुमने ईमानदारी से बता दिया, right? Just because you have an information. You are someone's doctor. You are a law-abiding citizen. So where is the police, or you are someone's advocate? So there will be certain duties that will be applicable to you based on who you are. And there will be certain duties that will be applicable to you based as an ordinary citizen of the country. Right? है ना? So therefore, as with who you are, just take something as simple as keeping secrets. While you must reveal everything to law enforcement authorities, you must speak the truth to law enforcement authorities. As a lawyer of a person accused of a crime, what is your duty? Your duty is to protect the interest of the client. So therefore, when you will hear that somebody has been accused of a crime, anywhere in the country, of a heinous crime, you will see that lawyers will boycott him, saying that no lawyer from this court will be fighting his case. Is that the true dharma? So as a liberal, some of you may not understand that what is wrong. He has acted against the society, or he has acted against the country. Why should a lawyer fight his case in this country? Why should not a lawyer come from outside? Yes. Yes, because as an advocate, while as an ordinary citizen of the country, he must have the highest amount of contempt for somebody who has committed a crime against the nation or the society. It is particularly all right that you must have a sense of contempt. All right, when a person has committed an example, है ना, very clear example से समझ लो. When a person has committed a crime against, heinous crime against society or nation, है ना, heinous crime against the nation or society. What is the duty of the advocate? An advocate, a person who is an advocate, everything has, listen, whatever you are studying, Please remember to apply it in ethics case studies question. Ethics case studies will be there. So where you will be put in a certain situation and you have to write your answer. So when you write your answer, the expectation will be you will be using words or ideas from here. All right. In this point, write down CS. In your copy, write down circle बनाओ और case study लिख लो. ठीक है? This is a case study idea. You are a, what is the case study here? You are a lawyer in a certain district. There is a criminal person who has been accused of murdering an entire family. The crime has shocked the entire city. It is nearly everybody certain. It is beyond doubt. As per the reports of the media, it is beyond doubt that the person has, beyond doubt that there is no doubt that he has not committed the crime. Everybody in the city believes that he has committed the crime. The Bar Council has passed a resolution saying that none of the advocates in the district will be contesting his case. This person has come to you as a last resort to fight your case. What will you do? Right? Now, how will you answer this question? Obviously, you can write an answer, yes, I will fight. No, I will not fight. Yes, I will fight, but puri property likhwa lunga. You can have those answers, right? That I'll get all his wealth transferred in my name. That can be. But the point is, how do you justify that? Why did you fight his case? So this is where your case study, this is a keyword case study, that while as an ordinary citizen, I must have the highest amount of contempt for whom? For the person who has committed that crime. That is sadharan dharma. I must have a high amount of contempt for him. At the same time, it is also my swadharma as an advocate, that being an advocate, I must ensure that a person accused of a crime has a right to fair trial. लिख लेंगे आंसर में, कीवर्ड डाल लेंगे, साधारण धर्म, स्वधर्म. Otherwise, your answer is just going to be a little ordinary. All right? हाँ, बोलो. Swadharma always does take precedence over sadharan dharma. It must take precedence over sadharan dharma. Another example of this can be, another very good example of this can be, a very good example is, you must have, what is the highest religious book for Hindus? Very wrong. Chalo, theek hai. But okay, let us imagine, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita. What does Bhagavad Gita mean? It means, yes, song of God, the song of the Lord. So there, what is the context? Why did, in Bhishma Parva, why this Bhagavad Gita is there at all? So what happens there is Arjun, he has taken his Gandiv or his bow and arrow, and he is there in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And he has to fight a war against whom? His own cousins. So basically, those of you who do not know, these Pandavas and Kauravas were two cousins of the same house. Two cousins of the same family tree. And because of certain reasons, they had to, the Raj part or the kingdom was taken from Pandavas to the Kauravas because of a certain reason. They were promised this kingdom back after a certain time. When the time came, the Kauravas did not give back the Pandavas the kingdom. And so therefore, a settlement was tried to be reached by Lord Krishna. When he could not reach a settlement, the war happened. All right? The war was for this kingdom. All right? And Lord Krishna had proposed that time that you give us 5 villages. Ye Panipat, Sonipat, all these 5 villages. Even then, we will be happy and we will not have a war. But the Kauravas did not relent, and therefore this war happened. This is the brief story for those of you who do not know. So what happens is Arjun is there sitting in his chariot holding his bow and saying, pulling an arrow from his quiver and says that, Krishna, why should I fight this war? This existential crisis you will also face. When after a lot of effort, after clearing the prelims, the mains interview call will come. In the very first attempt, the interview call will come. And suddenly, sometimes because you are already battle tired, or you know that again you already have a battle behind you, and now a battle is ahead of you. People, when they get an interview call in the first attempt, they will often have such questions. Sir, I am not sure if I want to become IAS. I have already studied so much, I'm very tired, and now you're telling that you have to prepare further. Right, so these existential questions will come. Am I even fit for it? Yeah, fit. Sometimes when your journey is too tiring, then you will say, am I even fit for it? Am I good enough? The teenage questions will come. Am I good enough? Right, so those things happen to a lot of students. So similarly, Arjun was in a battlefield saying that, why should I fight this war, Krishna? He says, for victory. Krishna says, no. Now Arjun is bewildered. If not for victory, then for what? To be defeated. Lord Krishna says, no. Now Arjun turns back to Krishna. He says, if not for victory, if not for defeat, then why am I fighting this war? Yes. So Krishna tells him, because it is your duty. It is your dharma to do so. So my dear students, sometimes जब पढ़ाई में मन ना लगे, है ना? Why should I study so much, sir? I've been struggling with my studies for so long. For what? Just so that I can clear the prelims or the mains or the interview. Now, once you have signed up and filled up the application form, then why should you study? Because it is your duty. मन में जब भी डायलेमा हो, है ना, अंदर से लगे कि इतनी पढ़ाई, अच्छी जॉब थी, छोड़कर आ गया. Some of you, not all of you, some of you may think I had a good career, I had a good girlfriend also, or a boyfriend, everything was going fine in life, everything was picture perfect, and then किसी ने बुद्धि खराब कर दी. है ना, बहुत अच्छी MNC में जॉब लगी, and then some चाचा came किया, अरे ये सब तो छोटी चीज है. And the poison that he put in your families or your mind, that made you leave everything, a very good setup, or with all your liberties that you enjoyed. Work for 5 days, come back home, है ना, Netflix and chill. Friday के बाद Saturday, Sunday chill, है ना. The good life that you had in Bangalore, Pune, or any other city, that made you suddenly quit everything, become dependent, like mendicants on your parents again, not taking up the job that you already have, not earning money and dependent on your parents' money, take up a room as small as possible with minimum rent as possible, and live miserably for the preparation. Why are we doing this? Because once you have decided what is to be done, once you are an aspirant, what do you have to do? You just have to do your duty. And that is what is Nishkam Karma. That is the message of Gita. That is Nishkam Karma. Why should you do it? Now you are studying not to get a rank 1. You are just doing it because that is what is supposed to be done. Today, why should you study 8 hours? Because that is what you should do. If you think too much of the correlation of something with the result, or every time keeping your objective in mind, sometimes you may not find the motivation. Sometimes. So sometimes you do things because you identify. And remember that in ethics, what is very important is correct, इसको भी लिख लो ये phrase को case study में, correct identification of one's dharma, correct identification of one's duty. ये लाइन भी हमारा case study का लाइन है, correct identification of one's duty. Correct identification of one's duty is what is the need of the hour in this case. So Bhishma Pitama, or Devavrat was his name. Prince Devavrat became Bhishma because he took the oath of celibacy, and because of his celibacy, the whole drama started. Okay? So his celibacy, this whole drama started. It's a very interesting story. They could make it is an epic, which is why it is an epic, right? It is an epic for the same reasons. You could say that, but try to generally, see, Bhishma Pitama is not celebrated. All right, Bhishma Pitama, despite doing everything, he went by the rule book. He did everything right, but he is not celebrated generally. ठीक है, तो वो example मत करना कि he is not seen as a good person, because there were several opportunities for him to. So Bhishma Pitama, you would not say that he did his duty. You say that he failed to identify his dharma. Bhishma Pitama's example will be, you failed because when Draupadi was having her Chirharan, all right, when Draupadi was being disrobed, there were seniors in the family who watched it, and they failed to what? Identify their dharma ki us samay hamara खेम क्या है. उस समय you are क्या गिना रहे हो? तो you are saying that what are the rules of the game. Somebody has won somebody, so that was not what was needed. That is where the right identification of your dharma, who you are. On that basis, you had to play your cards. So Bhishma Pitama will be in the opposite side of this. That while he says that he did his dharma, he failed to identify his true dharma. All right? Another example I can give you of Swadharma and Sadharam Dharma is that when your friend is using unfair means in the examination and you are supposed, there is no invigilator or a deficiency of invigilator, and you are said that please make sure that if someone cheats, you are supposed to report to him. So while as a friend, you may think that there is no need to, as a friend's loyalty is there on one hand and reporting him on the other hand, so you have to identify what is your dharma there. Or for example, a student invigilator is, you have been appointed as a student invigilator. Right? कि professor नहीं है, आप ही खड़े रहो, आप ही का friend cheating कर, your friend is cheating in the class. Then what is important is identifying what is your duty in that case. If your friend is cheating, what will you do? Report him. There is no dilemma here, all right? So this is dharma. All right? Then let us take another concept, law. Some of you have discussed this. What is a law? Law broadly can be said is codified rules of society. Law is a codified rule of a society. Law is possible only when there is a central authority to enforce it. Central authority enforces it, and there is a penal sanction against it. There is a penal sanction or penalty lagegi, penal sanction, or there is punishment for violation. There is a punishment for violation. All right, this is what is broadly law. I often say this. In a democracy, what is a good law? In a democracy, there are certain components of good. What is a good law? Yes, in a democracy, we believe that a good law must pass a certain test. The first test is that it must be framed with the consent of those governed. Okay, framed with the consent of those. Then another test of good law is that, बताओ, first class, what are the few tests of good law? Which means that it must be framed by the consent of those governed, or it must be done by a representative body. All right? So if a law is to be made, it must be done by a body which represents whom? The people who will be affected by that law. By whom? The people that will be affected by that. That's the first test of a good law. What is another test of a good law? Okay, another test of a good law is that you can say that it must be, okay, not an essential. Okay, so, okay. You could say it should be codified in simple terms. Not a very strong, but it must be codified in simple terms. Napoleon famously said, what did he say? That law should be such. Napoleon's seen. Why I'm quoting Napoleon is because Napoleon was earlier. This world was governed by whom? Not by law, but was governed by men. This world was governed by men. They were kings and they were the law. When these ideas of republic, when these ideas, French Revolution and all happened, it was Napoleon, one of the early propounders. I mean, philosophically, there were other philosophers, but he was the one who said that there must be a law, and the law must be codified in simple language, and this law must be common to everyone. And so when we often give the credit to the British, but to Napoleon also goes this credit that he was the person who said that no longer men will decide what is to be done, law will decide what is to be done. All right, so therefore he was crucial in the spread of rule of law in parts of northern Africa which he conquered. Wherever Napoleon conquered, he implemented codified law. And he famously said about law that law must be so simple and so succinct, it must be simple and succinct, brief hona chahiye, that it must be understood by a peasant, a common farmer should understand it, and it must fit into the pocket of a coat. All right. All right, so that is the second test. The third and most important test of a good law is, most important is, it must be subject to public reason. Subject to, it must be subject to public reason, which means that there must be debate and discussion on it. It must be subject to, why is it so important that it must be subject to public reason? Why should it be subject to public reason? What will be the benefit? Bolo? More acceptable it will become when it will be made from the representation of those who are there. The acceptability will come from here. That law is more acceptable, which is framed with the consent of those who are governed. But that is not acceptable. Debate and discussion will bring out the lacuna in law. कि कहाँ कमी है ना? Bring out the lacuna in law. है ना? So in the coming days, you may have a test in this class. And for example, I come up with a law in this class. And I often give this example, and I'll repeat it for you. I come up with this law in this class that students who are taller, they will be awarded 5 marks extra in every test because their brains are getting less blood supply. Unka dimag kamzor hai. Let us say I make this law. All right. If I announce it, it is very likely that some of you may see the ploy behind the law. If I say this, students who are taller than 5 feet 4 inches or 5 feet 5 inches will get 5 marks extra in the test because their brains are away from the blood supply and therefore they are less intelligent. And now I bring this law, but the minute it is subject to public reason, you will identify the big lacuna in law. That, sir, this is a class legislation that you have done. You have clearly identified that most 9 out of 10 women candidates are shorter than 5 feet 5 inches, and therefore you have brought this law specifically to target lesser marks to women students. पकड़ा जाएगा ये? कुछ दिन में आ जाएगा if it is subject to public reason, that it is inherently biased against female candidates. समझ में आ रही है बात? So while that is why as law must be subject to public reason, so while it may look very innocuous at first, कि कहाँ it is a gender neutral law, right? I said that it is a gender neutral law. The criteria is what? Height. And the survey releases that 8 out of 10 women candidates are less than 5 feet 5 inches in the Indian subcontinent. And therefore, do you see it is inherently, and there is a hidden motive behind this law in this class, to give lesser marks to women candidates. So that is why law must be subject to public reason. तुरंत game समझ में आ जाएगा. Why somebody is bringing a law? Hush, hush. चुपचाप law क्यों लाया जाता है? You can put this is a generic criticism you can put in criticism of any law of the parliament. All right, that if any law is to be criticized, you can say that it was not framed with the consent of or with the deliberated with those people whom it was. So for example, this law, the farm laws that are there, the 3 farm laws, why do we say that? Why is it said that the government was forced to repeal it? Because some people feel that it was framed, while it was framed by a representative body, that is the Indian Parliament, it was not done in consultation with the farmers whom it was supposed to affect. Secondly, it was brought in a hush-hush manner, so therefore it was not subject to public reason. It was not subject to public reason. So therefore, there were certain lacunas in the law. Right? So that is the test of a good law. Remember, law is different from ethics because there is a punishment for violation by whom? Central authority. The biggest difference between ethics and law is that there is a punishment for violation of law by a central authority. All right? Then there is another term you should know. Dilemma. What is a dilemma? What is a dilemma? Bolo, Sudhiti, bolo. Okay, conflict between when there is a choice between or there is a conflict between 2 equally desirable options. Very good. Two equally desirable options. All right, you could say that's equally desirable options. Remember that in a dilemma, there is no question of morality involved. है ना? So some of you are continuously having a dilemma, iPhone or Android. Right? Some people परेशान हैं कि पापा से पैसे कोचिंग की फीस के लिए मंगाए हैं, but now that is good enough for. बहुत बच्चे ऐसे हैं. What to buy? iPhone or this. है ना? Some students worried कि what should I have today? Pizza और burger. जगह एक के लिए ही है. कुछ तेज बच्चे हैं, दोनों मंगा लेते हैं. है ना? All right, so that is between two equally desirable choices. How do you resolve that dilemma? You weigh the pros and cons. है ना? You weigh pros and cons, pros and cons. Then you apply rationality to it. Apply rationality to it. Why it is difficult to make, है ना? So dilemma is again, it is a decision-making situation. It will be a decision-making situation where there are two equally desirable options. Equally desirable, sometimes two equally undesirable options. है ना? मम्मी पूछ रही है करेला खाओगे या तोरी की सब्जी? तो डायलेमा में हूँ, क्या बोलूँ? चुप हो, 2 मिनट तक चुप हो. Right? Mom is saying कि करेला का सब्जी पसंद है या तोरी की सब्जी? Now you are in a dilemma. Right? No ethics involved. कुछ बच्चों को दोनों पसंद है. लास्ट बेंच में मुस्कुरा रहे हैं कि मैं तो दोनों खाऊंगा. All right? Apply rationality. You apply your mind. That is a decision. Now this is different from an ethical dilemma. All right? This is different from an ethical dilemma. Be very clear with this, what is ethical dilemma, because at the end of this, if you just write something that is not technically correct, then there is a problem. What is an ethical dilemma? बताओ, ethical dilemma. बोलिए, any of you from the middle benches? हाँ? All right, so see, ethical dilemma is a decision, write it down. Ethical dilemma is a decision-making situation where the choice between two actions is such, that at least that any choice will compromise at least one moral value. That any choice will compromise at least one moral value. है ना? So it's not the same as करेले की सब्जी और तोरे की सब्जी. Here the question of morality is involved. The choice will compromise. In an ethical dilemma, what is assured? Moral violation of a moral rule is definitely assured, which means that, and in an ethical dilemma, you will violate at least one moral principle. That is an essential test for an ethical dilemma. What is the essential test of an ethical dilemma? बोलिए. At least one moral principle will definitely be violated. If it is not being violated, then it is not a ethical dilemma. Be very clear with this. At least one moral principle is violated, only then it is a ethical dilemma. All right? So if you take a very simple example, if you take the example of Vibhishan. Everybody knows who he was? घर में कोई है? हाँ? Right. So Vibhishan's example, he had two choices. Before him, Vibhishan was the brother of Ravan. Ravan was the person who had absconded with Sita, another man's wife. All right? So he had two choices. Now Ravan was the king of Lanka, and Ram was the man who was the victim in this case, whose wife had been kidnapped by this man, Ravan. Vibhishan had the big problem. What is Vibhishan's dilemma? He is the brother of Ravan. All right, so therefore, now when he chooses Ram, And when he chooses Ravan, he has two choices. He can choose either two. He can either choose to be. So Ram tells him, why don't you join me in the battle against Ravan and help me get my wife back? All right. So what is his dilemma? What is his dilemma? When he chooses Ram, what does he compromise? What is definitely he is violating? He is violating when he chooses Ram. He violates or he lets go of the values of loyalty and kinship. वो उसका भाई है, right? He is violating when you behave like. Remember, ethical dilemma. There is 100% moral violation. There is a ethical transgression will happen. So always remember this. Even in case studies, remember that the minute you have to take a decision which has an ethical dilemma, you will be acting immorally. Then what is the solace? You have to act as less immorally as possible. You can see this from this very classical example. When he chooses Ram, he violates the ideals of loyalty and kinship that is central to a family, is it not? Loyalty and kinship is central to what binds the family together. The members of a family are loyal to each other. They are bound by blood and they are bound by loyalty to each other. Right? And when he chooses Ram, he is violating loyalty and kinship. What is the problem when he chooses Ravan? Yes. He chooses his choices against righteousness. He is against righteousness. What is the right thing to do? He is choosing that. So therefore, this is Vibhishan's dilemma. Remember that in such a situation, no matter what choice he had made, he will be compromising a moral value and therefore he will be judged for it negatively. So Vibhishan, what did he finally choose? He chose Ram. Did he get rewarded for it? He may have won a kingdom, he may have been made a king. But even today, कोई घर में विभीषण किसी बच्चे का नाम होता है ना, कोई पूछे कि अच्छा बच्चा होने वाला दीदी का क्या नाम रखना है, बता दो विभीषण, है ना? Nobody keeps Vibhishan name as their child. राम रखेंगे, right? But विभीषण नहीं चाहिए किसी को घर में. सब ठीक किया लेकिन फिर भी, है ना? So that is his dilemma. He knows that he will be vilified in humanity forever. Vilified means treated as a villain. Or he will be vilified forever, right? That is the ethical dilemma of Vibhishan, and that is your ethical dilemma also. See, all the time we have to choose between a Ram and a Ravan. All the time, in every case study, you will have to choose often between a Ram and a Ravan. And while these may look black and white at first, your position is often that of Vibhishan. That is why it is an ethical dilemma. Otherwise, the choice is very easy. Who will not choose Ram over Ravan? Everybody will. But when your position is Vibhishan, everything changes. This will be central to your case studies, where there will be an ethical dilemma. So be clear theoretically here that any choice, none of the choices are the right choice. Both the choices are wrong. One of them is less wrong than the others. This has to be very clear on day one, so that 2 weeks later when you are doing case studies, you are clear that you have just chosen between one that minimizes the damages. All right, this is what is the ground for your case studies. Okay? That is an ethical dilemma. All right. Then there is values. What are values? See, values are often, it is often generally misunderstood by students. So to simplify it and understand it, what do you value? For example, let us say you are preparing for, not let us say you are preparing for civil services. Okay? So what would you value at this point? Who would you want to be friends with? You would value your time a lot, all right? No, but when do you want to, what do you find, who do you want to be friends with? What values? Positive. What would be the positive values right now that you seek for yourself? Yes, so you would say that, and some students are saying that if I see that somebody is very disciplined, I would want to be friends with him or her. Right? Yes? Huh? Rich? Who said that? Not a desirable value. Not a desirable value. Right? Somebody who's disciplined. What else would you value? A positive attitude. What would that entail? Matlab, you would, what else would you value? Okay. So he should be okay. So you will see that a person who's very self-motivated is something that you would admire. Right? कि अच्छा मैं उसको admire करता हूँ. Somebody who's hard work पूरी class में कोई नहीं बोल रहा है. You would value somebody who's hard working. You say कि बहुत पढ़ता है. So I'll tell you one very interesting thing. So what happened is we are trying to build Forum into a great organization. That is what we are trying to do. So what happens is if I call, there are some friends of mine who are working in different sectors, different verticals. I am into education. There are people who are in different verticals. So what happens is education sector requires a lot of hard work and personal commitment. That it is inherent to this. So which means that you will not have weekends. You will study on Saturday and Sunday like students. That is a part of the job. So what happens is, now what is very important? So now most of the people who are running or heading an organization, they want to be very successful. Whether it is Forum as a coaching, whether it is any other sector. So if 10:30 p.m. I call a friend and I ask him, what are you doing? And he says, oh, I'm out in a restaurant or somewhere and I'm just partying. And it's 10:30 p.m. on Saturday. I'm telling you, most people will not even battle an eyelid. They will be very happy कि दुनिया party कर रही है और मैं काम कर रहा हूँ. But the minute I call up someone who is his own organization or his own company to run, and at 10:30, if I on Saturday I ask him कि अच्छा क्या कर रहा है, तो कुछ नहीं यार थोड़ी देर में ऑफिस से निकलूंगा, then I'm scared. Somebody is working harder than you. Why? Because then that is your value. So you're thinking ये 10:30 बजे Saturday को, he is in office. You will not be very different because you call up your friend and he says that मैं 10 o'clock को अभी भी library में हूँ. Are you not scared? And sometimes do you not value them more? कि यार ये पढ़ रहा है. Right? So remember that this is what is value. See, value is something that is, and these values will be, so value is something, these are, what are values? These are principles or standards. All right, these are principles or standards that determine desirability of an action. That determine desirability of an action or a choice. So remember, a lot of parents, you will often hear that, parents, कुछ बच्चों के parents होंगे, they will call them multiple times. Okay? And not just call, video call them multiple times. Right? तो तुमने कुछ ऐसे अच्छे काम किए होंगे कि तुम्हें video call parents से मिलता है. कि parents don't make an audio call, they simply make a video call to them. All right. Now it is not possible for parents to control all your decisions. You are already grown up. Right? You are grown up. So it is not possible for them. Then what is? And learn it for yourselves, for your next generation. Okay? So learn it for yourselves that, then how can a parent ensure that his child will make the good decision? Because they can't be here. As children, you are all growing up, you will always have a parallel life compared to what your parents think of you. Right? एक अलग chapter चल रहा होगा life में. Right? A parallel world. Right? As you grow older, those worlds will converge with your parents, but the younger you are, the more parallel world you have. In your school, your parents are thinking कि बच्चा खा नहीं रहा है, पतला है, and he is thinking of some other thing in school. अलग problem से worried है वो. Right? Then how does one parent ensure? This is very crucial. How does one parent ensure that the child makes the same choices? What will be important for here? It will completely depend on what values have been given. It will completely depend on what values have been. It is simply when your parents, for example, some of your parents may not be sending you monthly installment, they may be just sending you a lot of money, and they expect that when you have less of it, you call me. It could be for some. What are they banking on? They're banking on your values. They know that, my child, my boy or my girl, he should feel financially secure while he's in Delhi. But also, they know that even if they have sent something more than that is your monthly budget, what is the faith that they have? कि नहीं उसका values ठीक है. हालांकि होंगे कुछ ऐसे कि पेरेंट्स ने भेजे नहीं कि सरोजनी नगर का चक्कर लग गया. ठीक है. All right, so that is what is values. So values, they will decide what will desirability of an action or choice. They will decide, they are determinants of one's action choice. है ना? When there is no surveillance, when there is no surveillance, what is the reason that some of you may be part of a group that may be doing some sort of intoxication or nasha? All right. What is the reason that some of you may not breach a certain level, a certain mark would have been decided by you, that I will not do this? What is that? That will be completely decided by your values. There may not be a question of morality in it. There may not be a question of morality in it. It is simply a matter of your values. You are coming from a Jan family and your friends are all voracious non-vegetarians. How are you able to maintain your integrity in that party? है ना, जिसके लिए सिंगल छोटा पैन पिज्जा वेजिटेरियन आ रहा होगा, है ना? How are you able to? What will decide whether you will not transgress the boundary, so-called boundary that is set by your family? They are not watching you. They will not ask you. How is it decided? How strong your values are. That will be the determinant. उसी से समझ में आ जाएगा सारा. ठीक है? So that is your values. So these values, for example, and these values, for example, if somebody is a warrior, what is needed in such a person? Bravery and courage. Right? Somebody is, for example, businessman or merchants. It is often said by Plato that appetite or avarice, they should have a good appetite. They should have avarice or greed also is good value for a merchant. Otherwise, and Plato says that what is a good value for a king? What should a king pursue? Yes, philosophy is, literally the meaning of philosophy is love of wisdom. Philosophis, love of wisdom. So these are the values. Now you are very courageous, you are very brave, you are very warrior-like. And then you are in Karol Bagh and somebody hits you from behind, or you are in a vehicle and somebody hits your vehicle. Then what do? There is road rage, not a desirable quality in Delhi. We are not looking for warriors roaming around in Delhi, which has too many warriors, right? Every year, barring the past 2-3 years, ever since COVID has broken down, people have calmed down a little and there is more respect for human life, to be honest. The COVID has taught us a few things. It has not taught us everything, but it has taught us few things to value human life more. I have not seen a major road rage case ever since COVID. But 2019 and every year, every day at least 3 road rage cases in Delhi. Somebody hit somebody's vehicle, this man came out and bait him black and blue. These things not happening thankfully now because people are more accommodative. A lot of people have lost someone or they know someone who's lost people, and therefore there is more respect for human life. So, ये चीजें कम हो गई हैं. But warrior, this courage quality is not needed. Similarly, if you are a soldier and you have too much wisdom, not needed. Right? Not needed. Why am I saying this? Soldiers cannot be kings. And if you are, see what happens is most of the students when they come for the interview, they go कि बाल crew cut है. So I said कि अच्छा, कहाँ से बोले सर CAPF में I was in training भाग कर आया हूँ, बताया नहीं है किसी को. तो मैंने कहा what is the problem you are facing? It's a very good job. You will be a commandant and they have a really good life. The quality of life is really good once you become a commandant. So they say कि sir actually after studying so much, it is not possible to do that job. I said why? कि for example, I am late for my PE or my PT. The requirement will be you take a gun or a big sack, like 10 kgs, put it on your head and you do 10 rounds of the field. I'm not finding any logic in that. Then I told him that if you are posted on the border, you will be posted in certain difficult areas. Your seniors will tell you that there is 5 kilometers, there is a post, nobody can stay there, but ask one of your soldiers to go to the 5 kilometers, go there and come back, and carry lot. So, will you do it or not? He said, yes, I will do. Then I said, if your soldier starts applying mind ki sir, iska kya logic hai? वहाँ पे कैमरा लगा के MI का कैमरा लगा कर यहाँ से देख लेंगे, will it work? It will not. Soldiers are often supposed to follow orders. An army is not supposed to have a mind of its own. If it has a mind of its own, then it will not be the army, it will capture power. It's not, right? So these qualities are different. People should have different qualities. If business merchants are too wise, there is a problem. They are not having an appetite to expand the business. No economic development of the country will happen. No jobs will be generated. If a king, instead of wisdom, he is having warlike property, then he is a warmonger. Half the male population of the state is continuously threatened, and others are dead because of the wars. Right? So, so different qualities, different groups should have different values. Then there is another term, religion. Religion is is taken from the word, as far as I can remember, the Latin word religare, which means to bind. All right, religion is taken from the Latin word religare, which means to bind. इसको एक बार समझना है. All right. Religion, in the Western sense of the word, religion has to have certain traits. What are the 3 or 4 common things that every religion must have, as per the Western notion or understanding of religion? Yes. See, sometimes you will often hear this debate that they will often talk this. There is often a debate with respect to sometimes Hinduism that it is not a religion. However, we often say that it is not a religion in the conventional Western understanding, because the Western understanding of a religion is that there is one supreme God. Yes, one holy script. And there is a preacher or an evangelist, one who will convert the people to that religion. So all the Semitic religions of the world, they have these traits. Unfortunately, you will not find this in Hinduism, which is why it is said that Hinduism is a way of life. It is said that it is a way of life south of the Hindu Kush mountains or the Indian subcontinent. It is so much a way of life that certain traits of the Hindu society will permeate people across all religions. I repeat, certain traits of the Hindu society will permeate across religions. Can you name any such one trait? Yes, newspaper mein roz aata hai. Today is the debate only, yesterday's only the debate, that should there be caste-based reservation, for example, in followers of Islam? Because Islam is not supposed to have caste anywhere in the world, but in India, ends up having caste, because that is the feature of Hinduism. Problem hai na? All right. There is no one holy book. There is no one holy book. Which holy book do you have in your house? Anybody batao, any one holy book? Anybody's? हाँ? कोई कह रहा है ऋग्वेद रखे हुए घर में. कौन रखे? दिखाओ. हाँ? रामायण एंड भगवद गीता. अच्छा, पढ़ लेते हो रामायण? हिंदी में ट्रांसलेट किया हुआ वाला रामायण होगा? हाँ, ठीक है. हनुमान चालीसा, सम पीपल, है ना? कुछ लोगों के लिए वही है सुप्रीम बुक. इतना गलत काम करते हैं हमेशा, ऑलवेज इन ट्रबल. ऑल राइट. Yeah, so therefore there is no one religious holy book. There is an effort to say that this is our absolute holy book, but there is no one. You can be a Hindu and you can have any, है ना? Some people will have कि सर मैं तो लक्ष्मीकांत की ही पूजा करता हूँ, वही मेरा है, right? That is all that I have. Good enough. The beauty is that Hinduism will allow you. Does it make you a bad Hindu? No. है ना? Hinduism has this one benefit. Some of you are very lucky to be born in the Indian subcontinent. That You can worship any god, read any book, and still be a good Hindu. Shashi Tharoor in his book, Why I'm a Hindu, he says that my Western friends ask me that how do I become a Hindu? I was not baptized into this. I did not have any ritual by which I converted to this. I am a Hindu. Why? Because I was born into a Hindu family. That's all. And sometimes they ask me, how can we become? Some of my American friends ask me, how can I become a Hindu? And very nicely he says that some people will preach to you that you need to do a puja to become a Hindu, but that's not the case. The minute you think a Hindu, you are a Hindu. You could be a white European and you can come and attend our temple. You can come and attend the temples. You can put a tika and we consider you. The minute you think you are a Hindu, you don't have to do a puja. You don't have to worship a certain god. You can worship all of them or you can worship none of them and still be one. Nobody says that if you don't go to Hanuman Mandir on Tuesdays, एग्जाम के पहले ही बच्चे जाते हैं. भीड़ लगी रहती है मेंस के पहले और प्रीलिम्स के पहले. हनुमान मंदिर के बाहर सारे बच्चे है ना वहीं रहते हैं. ठीक है? So you do not have to be, right? In Hinduism, the beauty is such that you worship anything and everything, right? If you see a person worshipping a tree, most people will not ask you are worshipping what. You will say, which tree are you worshipping? Right? So you worship both the animate. We worship cow. That is, and we also worship the inanimate. है ना? So विश्वकर्मा पूजा. My driver said, sir, आज छुट्टी चाहिए. मैंने बोला ठीक है, I will drive to work. He said, नहीं गाड़ी को भी छुट्टी चाहिए. तो क्यों? आज विश्वकर्मा पूजा है, उसका पूजा करेंगे. तो मैंने देखा गेंदे के फूल से पूरा सजा रखा है गाड़ी. मैंने कहा कोई देख लेगा ना तो कहेगा यू आर टीचिंग, यू आर फ्रॉम, है ना? सो मैंने कहा ठीक है, मैं टैक्सी से जाता हूँ, दिखना नहीं चाहिए किसी को. राइट राइट. सो दैट इज कन्वेंशनल, है ना? Religion does it. Is religion a source of ethics? It will become a source of ethics. It will become the most primitive source, most primary source of ethics. Why? Because imagine the earliest societies, the hunting-gathering societies. In the hunting-gathering societies, how do you enforce a rule? You use the tool of religion to enforce a rule. You use the tool of religion. How do you use the tool of religion to enforce a rule in a hunting-gathering society? You say that nobody will desert their friends if an animal attacks. You are a team, you have a tribe, and 3 people go hunting, and if an elephant attacks, you leave the kamzor wale bacche ko chhod ke sab bhag gaye. है ना? That's it. So you have a rule like you don't desert your friends in trouble. That's the rule. How do you enforce it? You will have to punish somebody, or you have to. So you will have to bring in. How do you get? When a leader will make that rule, not everybody will be willing to follow. But when gods make the rule, easy to follow. When gods make the rule, easy to follow. So therefore, you will try to make laws. Religion becomes, is an important source of ethics in the society. Why? Because it has divine sanction, and so therefore, it enjoys divine sanction. Therefore, enforceability is easy. You don't come and say that I will punish you. What do you say? Who will punish you? God is watching and He will punish you. इससे सिपाही कैमरा की जरूरत भी कम हो जाती है थोड़ी. You know that person के दिमाग में if you have fitted him that if you do this God will punish you. Now you don't need to have a policeman watch him. He will be himself self-regulation. So therefore religion is also, it regulates human behavior. इस पर क्वेश्चन आया हुआ है. Regulates human behavior. है ना? Regulates human behavior. All right. So these are some key terms that we went through today. So from tomorrow, next class is tomorrow? Yes. So from tomorrow, next class, we will be finishing some of the other keywords and we'll be beginning with the first topic. Topic number 1, ethics and human interface. All right.